Independence Day is now associated with alien invasion thanks to the Hollywood blockbuster by the same name. Recently, one of our very own viewers says he saw more than just fireworks on July 4th, and he sent us a video that has us asking, are UFOs somehow attracted to colorful aerial explosions like we are? Chatsworth, California, July 4th, 2018. John Lopez is celebrating with his family.
Every year we go out in our backyard because we're able to see the fireworks.
But instead of pyrotechnics, they see something far more startling. These lights.
Kind of look like fireballs just floating around in the sky, and then like different ones kind of appeared out of nowhere.
Look closer. The lights swoop, flicker on and off, and seem to hover for more than 30 minutes. And what makes it even stranger? This is the second 4th of July in a row that John has seen them.
Mom, the UFOs are back. I swear to God. I swear.
They're back. That's trip. Damn.
So everyone was kind of shocked to see that.
It left the Lopez family wondering, what had they seen and why does it recur on the 4th? Journalist and author Alexis Brooks is one of the leading authorities on UFO encounters.
We've heard many stories of UFOs showing up repeatedly to individuals, but the fact that it was at the same time and in the same place, I haven't heard too often. You wonder if the fireworks display may have actually attracted these anomalous objects to the scene.
Brooks wonders why the UFOs appear specifically on the 4th.
Are they attracted to the light in the sky that the fireworks portray? Do they want to hide themselves in the midst of fireworks?
Professor of anthropology Michael Masters notes there's a spike in UFO sightings on the 4th and brings up a theory that they could be trying to figure out exactly what we're doing.
It sort of conjures up ideas of this galactic zoo model that we're being watched by these otherworldly beings fascinated by this strange ritual of independence where we explode these bombs in the air.
But Independence Day has been around for 200 years. Why are the UFOs only showing up to watch now? One theory is that we've only recently become interesting as a species, now that we're building space stations and supercomputers. Let's see what our experts think of John's video.
We did detect several consistent signatures across the video recordings, both made using similar make and model devices. So there is no evidence that we detected that these files were manipulated.
So the videos are legit, but could they be picking up your typical 4th of July light show?
I don't detect similarities with what I would expect to see from fireworks, because fireworks are a momentary lapse of light in the sky. They explode and then they vanish. There's just simply no evidence of that in these recordings.
Astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio looks for other explanations, like planes or sky lanterns.
Aircraft have to have Federal Aviation Administration mandated lighting. We don't see that here, so I'm ruling out an aircraft. The sky lantern is slow and moves on the prevailing winds in the sky. These objects are not doing that. They're moving any which way they want. And so that rules out sky lanterns.
Our aviation expert, Tim McMillan, considers if the objects could be flares.
If there are flares fired from an aircraft, you would see them spread out. I would say flares would be pretty unlikely.
And finally, there's always the possibility of drones.
Could someone be operating a drone swarm? Maybe. Drones operate off of battery power, and so if you're operating a very high-powered, high-illumination light, that's less time that your drone is going to be able to stay in the air.
Our experts can only say these lights might be drones, but they can't be certain. So for now, our verdict, these are genuine UFOs. So maybe we are truly living in the land of the free, or we could just be part of a galactic zoo, entertaining the ETs. March 19th, 2020. We're in the skies over Monterrey, Mexico, on a cargo plane headed to Memphis, Tennessee. About an hour into the flight, while Captain Eric Delgado is enjoying his dinner, something catches his eye. He pulls out his device and records this.
Oh man, that is phenomenal, dude. I'm so glad you saw that. And you saw it drop out of the sky and just stop?
I thought it was a shooting star. Then it just stopped.
This is awesome, man. And it's pulsating too, man. That is nuts.
Captain Delgado says this thing dropped straight down from above and hit his plane with some kind of spotlight.
It looked like a lighthouse in some thin fog as it's turning. So that really got my heart going.
No doubt a UFO shining a light on your plane would be a terrifying moment.
Not that could have been a safety issue because initially this thing is turning into us and then it decided to park itself off our left wing tip.
The glowing orb maintains its position, pacing the plane. Delgado says it stayed there for 25 minutes before darting off at a sharp angle.
At that point, the fear was gone, and then I was flabbergasted. It was just wonderment, I guess.
And there's more. This is the part of Mexico where Delgado saw the UFO. It's a short flight from central Mexico's zone of silence, a weird place that locals say blocks radio transmissions and where UFOs have been seen for centuries. And check out this video. Similar objects recorded by the Mexican Air Force in 2004.
I guess now I can definitively say we are not alone. He's a pulsating orb. Look at that, dude. Look at that.
So what's the story down in Mexico? We passed Captain Delgado's video on to some top aviation and video analysts, and you need to hear what they have to say. We turn back to Mark D'Antonio, who has spent 15 years doing image and video analysis. He first wanted to check if this orb could actually be the planet Venus, which is sometimes mistaken for a UFO.
Number one, Venus doesn't move around in the sky like they saw it. And this object shone a light inside the cockpit of the aircraft. Planets don't have spotlights on them.
So could it have been a meteor or a piece of space junk? Fun fact, there are about 130 million pieces of junk in our orbit. But look at how this meteor leaves a long tail, and only for a few seconds. That's not what this thing does. Aviation expert Tim McMillan.
Meteors fly into the atmosphere, at a speed of 25,000 to more. You don't have something that's following you for 30 minutes. We can scratch that off the list. That's not going to be a good explanation.
McMillan is equally convinced this was not another plane.
If you'd had another plane that was flying in the vicinity, it would be operating the lights that are on either wing. So your green and red lights, anybody who's looked up in the sky has seen those blinking. And so you don't see anything else but that.
Now, at 576 miles an hour, we can also rule out drones, because there is no drone that I know of that goes 576 miles an hour at 37,000 feet.
And of course, other aircraft are supposed to show up on radar. But look at what happens when Delgado pans to the cockpit monitors.
There's weather about 40 miles off our left wingtip where this thing seems to have disappeared.
It may be the most inexplicable part of this whole incident. The orb never appears on Delgado's collision avoidance system or air traffic control's radar.
You would see, if there was another aircraft in the vicinity where they're looking, which is in this region, you'd see a plane on this. So we don't see that, so there's definitely not another aircraft.
You now have a case that's really, truly mysterious. This looks like there's mystery here.
That was a UFO. You can look at the footage and form your own opinions. I'm not the story. The footage is the story.
So America, time for the answer. Is it proof or not? Well, it's not a planet. There are no wings, and Delgado said it followed him. Now, we didn't see any evidence of the spotlight he described, but our verdict? A UFO, which is technically any unidentified flying object. July 13th, 2020, landscape gardener Ben Landrocombe is on a camping trip in Devon, England. There, in the sylvan silence, he comes upon a scene that looks anything but natural.
We walked about 15 minutes into the forest. It felt really eerie, and the woods were really dense and just felt a bit of an eerie place. Then there was this big, like a crater, like a perfect circle.
Uprooted trees create an oval-shaped clearing. Take a good look. There's no evidence of professional logging or landscaping. We slow down the video, and you can see the damage seems to be about 60 feet across, with blown down trees right next to ones that are perfectly upright. Did something large land here?
Well, it's definitely a mystery, and who knows what it could be, but I've never had an answer back to me straight saying what it is. So I'll still believe it's a UFO landing site.
Journalist Aaron McCarthy says after it was posted, Ben's video made international headlines, with many comparing it to another English phenomenon associated with possible UFO landing sites.
To me, whenever I see something like this, I think of things like crop circles, because they are just really pushed down with some force. It doesn't look natural.
Southern England is the site of the famous Rendlesham Forest incident of 1980. Sightings of unexplained lights in the sky that became known as Britain's Roswell. So did Ben stumble upon the footprints of a British UFO, or something we can't even guess? We turn to our experts for a closer look. Our military analyst Tim McMillan considers the possibility that a secret or experimental aircraft might have crashed here.
If you're talking about any type of aircraft, falling out of the sky or crash lands, you're gonna have an impact crater and you're going to see debris. So you would see a lot more going on. Definitely some physical evidence that would support any type of crash of anything.
Now, some have suggested this could have been caused by a meteor. If such a strike created a crater here, it happened long enough ago for most of the displaced Earth to fill in. But these trees look like they were felled recently. They're still green.
That doesn't really suggest that there was enough time for all of that meteor impact to have filled in and covered over in that kind of time.
If it's not a meteor, what about meteorology?
It doesn't take a terribly strong tornado to knock a tree over. Another possibility is what's known as a microburst, and that is something where a really intense downdraft forms within the thunderstorm, and it comes crashing out of the storm and then spreads out really violently, almost like you think about like a bomb went off.
Tornadoes and microbursts are uncommon in England, but Hints looked up the weather history of that area to see if either is a possibility.
So when I looked at the radar, there were a series of intense thunderstorms that were causing flooding and all sorts of damage throughout this part of England. My best guess is that, given the damage pattern, a concentrated gust of winds happened to tear through that particular part of the forest and knock those trees down.
So, our verdict? Based on Dr. Hentz's analysis, we're going to say this seemingly supernatural event can be explained by the weather. Most likely a hyper-local wind burst of 90 miles an hour or so. But Ben says that can't explain the eerie, otherworldly feeling he experienced in those woods. To him, the mystery remains unsolved. November 2020, the Red Rock Desert of southern Utah. A helicopter crew and state biologists are counting bighorn sheep when something catches their eye. They land and make this astounding discovery. A large, shiny silver object tucked into an almost inaccessible canyon.
It's just wild.
Look closer. From every angle, it's clear this thing does not belong here. Utah keeps its location secret, but news leaks out on social media, and it's quickly labeled the Utah Monolith. U.S. Army vet David Serber takes all the secrecy as a challenge.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find this place, right? It was probably 11 p.m., and I drove for 6 hours straight through the night to try to get there.
David works his way deep into a canyon.
I don't see anyone.
Just after daybreak, he rounds a corner.
There she is.
And it's just there. I was like, oh God. And it was just a really cool experience to have a few minutes alone with it.
There are a few things more iconic than a monolith, whether we're talking about the monolith that started 2001: A Space Odyssey, or the obelisks of ancient Egypt. So when this mysterious metal monument popped up, it really sparked people's imagination. The idea being that possibly one of the ways that aliens would contact us would be to leave an information-laden monolith for us to investigate and discover.
One focus on the internet was whether the monolith was constructed with alien building materials.
The belief was that they are comprised of something called a metamaterial or a metametal.
Metamaterials are engineered to have properties not found naturally on Earth. Special composites of metal strands and ceramics are created to absorb radar for stealth technology. And there are reports from reputed UFO crash sites that the craft contain alloys that give them anti-gravity and cloaking characteristics. Accounts of alien metamaterials went mainstream in 2017 with a New York Times article.
According to the New York Times report, Bigelow Aerospace was contracted by the government to store possible materials from alien craft.
It's believed that the U.S. government is studying these alien materials to create the next generation of weapons. Could the Utah monolith be made of the same sort of alien materials? David tests it.
I had a magnet with me, mainly because we were trying to figure out, what type of metal is it?
Not sticking.
And also, was it a solid object or was it hollow?
Not solid.
So what's it made of? And by whom? Other mysterious monoliths have been discovered recently, often in remote locations, in Romania, the Isle of Wight, and Sweden. Are these objects some sort of alien calling card, or could they be the product of a very creative and very human mind?
And when you first see this, you can't help but think of some type of extraterrestrial technology. However, there's nothing about what we're seeing in this video that leads me to believe it's manufactured from any kind of exotic materials.
Unlike reports of UFO metamaterials, the monolith doesn't defy gravity, and it's definitely not cloaked. In person, David noticed fingerprint smudges and ragged corners as well as other signs of terrestrial construction.
The telltale signs of those rivets would make me believe this is man-made, no matter how kind of anomalous its appearance is.
For McMillan, that's the giveaway, the signs of ordinary earthbound metalwork. If it is human-made, Kathy Strain has an idea why someone went through all the effort to put it in the middle of nowhere.
I think it's a message of beauty, of artwork, maybe makes you reflect more that I wanted to come here for the wilderness.
Some artists, like Donald Judd, believe that wilderness is the ultimate art gallery and use isolated locations for installation sites. But who made this and what it's made from is almost impossible to determine from a video.
Ultimately, you're not going to be able to determine exactly what this object is until you get it into a lab and under in-depth analysis.
But just as it appeared out of nowhere, the Utah monolith vanished, literally overnight. So until it's found and we can get it into a lab, our verdict, this is not an alien artifact. It's either a human artwork or a hoax. Either way, it's a compelling conversation piece. September 2018, the Mediterranean Sea. An F-18 is approaching the deck of the carrier USS Ford. It looks like a pinpoint precise landing. But then,
As it goes to touchdown, we actually see a triangular-shaped UFO, like something that would be right out of an alien movie. And you're like, whoa, let's rewind that.
the object definitely doesn't look like any known military aircraft. And that triangle shape, that means something.
Historically, UFOs have been certain types of shapes. You've got cigar UFOs, saucer UFOs, and triangle UFOs. So the fact that there was a triangle UFO on this aircraft carrier, that really sent the UFO community into a frenzy.
The USS Ford video becomes more than clickbait. It becomes international news. The Iranian state media declares it proof that the US is plotting with aliens to take over the world. And even when this official version of the video surfaces, same plane, same ship, but no UFO, people aren't convinced.
Some are wondering, is this original video really the original video? Or did they edit out the triangular-shaped UFO to keep us from knowing that they actually are harboring alien spacecraft?
The U.S. military's so-called black budget for military research and covert ops is estimated at about $50 billion a year. Is this video proof of your tax dollars at work? Let's check in with our experts. Science writer and forensic video analyst Mick West notices two things right away. First, look at those shadows.
The sun's rays are all parallel. They're all the same angle, like that helicopter angle. But if we go to here, it actually needs to rotate to there. So they've put the shadow at the wrong angle. These all have an angle like this, and these have an angle like that.
Then he stabilized the footage, keeping the deck fixed.
We can see the object kind of jiggles around. Everything else is staying nice and solid, but this is doing a little dance on the deck, which is because they haven't properly registered the motion tracking with the deck at a subpixel level.
Oh, and just one more thing.
It looks not just remarkably, but identically like a toy model kit of what is called the TR-3B. This particular aircraft is identical to the model that is for sale.
McMillan says videos like this aren't all fun and games. When they get exploited by hostile governments, they sow mistrust and anger towards the U.S. military. That's a common tactic in information warfare. So, our verdict? Hoax. And perhaps not such a harmless hoax. According to Scripture, the prophet Ezekiel witnessed fiery wheels in the sky. He considered them divine. Now you're about to see a video that could show another celestial object over Israel that also might not be of this earth. 2011, a resident of Jerusalem is out for a stroll when a bright light over the old city catches his eye. He begins to film, and this is what his camera captures. A bright ball of light hangs over the old city. Strange on its own, but then it drops down to just above the buildings, hovers, and amazingly zooms straight up, literally in the blink of an eye. Watch this last part again. The ball of light seems to be just above roof level. There's a bright flash that stuns the onlookers.
Whoa!
And it rockets up and out of frame in less than a second. This isn't just happening anywhere. The orb, or whatever it is sighted over one of Earth's holiest places, the Dome of the Rock, also known as the Temple Mount.
The Dome of the Rock is one of the most important sites in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, where Muhammad ascended into heaven. It's also the site where Abraham was about to sacrifice his son Isaac to God.
It is also where Solomon was said to have built the first temple, and centuries after it was destroyed, where Jesus cast out the moneylenders of the Second Temple. Could we be witnessing a modern-day miracle?
We have lots of stories where people, when they are having a religious moment, see lights in the sky. Because we're at a holy site, maybe something holy is happening.
This idea of a UFO Holy Land connection was revived in 2020, when an Israeli space expert sent eyes looking towards the heavens with a startling claim.
Haim Ashad, who was Israel's space security chief, went on record claiming that Earth was being visited by extraterrestrials. You literally had the highest ranking official of Israel's space program coming out publicly stating that there was a galactic federation of alien races.
Ishad, who was promoting a book at the time, has never revealed his sources. But he's not the only believer in this federation. It is said that the Federation consists of hundreds of thousands of members and was founded millions of years ago.
Well, I believe this statement by the Israeli Space Secretary is the truth. This whole idea of the Galactic Federation can be traced back to the Eisenhower administration in 1950. There were numerous reports that he had contact with an extraterrestrial.
Haim Eshed says that as part of the pact, we're allowing aliens to conduct experiments on Earth, and we built a joint underground base on Mars. So is this object a UFO, a known craft, or a bit of video hocus pocus? First, could this be Israel's Iron Dome missile system? It has been used to detect and shoot down over 2,000 rockets.
The problem with that is it shoots up. It doesn't come down like this does. Number two, the object ends up hovering. The defense system doesn't do that. As far as whether that could be a drone, there's a lag time. When you add full power, we didn't see that. It just went boom, straight up in the air. So that takes drone out of the equation.
That seems to narrow it down to one option, a UFO. If the video is real, we run it by Michael Primo's expert eye.
So I began the analysis with media interrogation, noted that there was insufficient digital information to verify it as a camera original. The metadata was scarce.
That likely means the video was run through at least one software program, stripping away much of the metadata.
Upon further analysis, we applied macro block visualization. This essentially means that the software took that information out, and those gradient values aren't actually recorded in the original recording. So in conclusion, this recording should not be considered authentic.
Whoa!
It looks like someone had some fun making this video, so we're gonna call it a hoax. But this in no way disproves the Galactic Federation claim. According to Haim Eshed, the aliens will make themselves known to the wider world once humankind is ready for the truth. Next, we want to show you a video that blew up social media, a series of UFOs over Miami. But we want to know, is it real? Miami, Florida, in June of 2020. A man on the balcony of a downtown high-rise appears to capture something in the sky, and it's jaw-dropping.
Wow, no bull. Here's a sky over here, downtown, my house, my hand. What the is that? Holy.
Let's push in on that. At first glance, I'm gonna say it looks like a triangular craft rimmed by 5 lights. But a closer look reveals there's a 6th light, and one light is much brighter. And then...
Oh, what is that? What the...
The lights fan out like they are 6 different craft. As the witness continues his play-by-play, they zoom off into space at warp speed.
Oh, wait, bye.
Author and journalist Alexis Brooks has written and spoken extensively about UFOs.
So the question becomes, could this be a UFO? There are a lot of people having a lot of sightings, particularly in more recent years. In fact, it's been known that a sighting is reported every 8 seconds globally.
The lights remind some of another weird phenomenon. For decades, orbs called the Hesdalen lights have been seen over Norway, sometimes hovering, sometimes shooting off at speeds estimated at 20,000 miles per hour. Always silent, the Hesdalen lights have been known to sterilize soil near where they are sighted. Explanations include UFOs or an anomaly caused by gases released from the Earth. Yet the Miami footage is more orderly, really like UFOs flying in formation. It quickly goes viral.
What is that? Oh, wait, bye. Whoa, it's incredible. Wow.
So what accounts for the strange lights? We have 2 video experts ready to weigh in. Forensic video analyst Michael Primo examines video evidence for court cases. And he doesn't just focus on what we're seeing, but also on what we're hearing.
When we investigate these types of recordings, we detect that there is a human reaction time where the brain needs to essentially catch up. And in this particular case, we don't see any kind of reaction time to a unnatural phenomenon such as this.
Downtown, my house, my hand.
It's almost as if the operator knows exactly what's going to happen when it happens. He's reacting almost perfectly. There is no reaction time.
Oh, wait, bye.
Then he instantly says, okay, bye, and then he pans away from it. It's very strange. I would expect that an operator doesn't simply move away after they see something like that. They stay focused on it.
Mark D'Antonio, another video analyst with a degree in astronomy, pointed out something else. Look at how the UFOs move compared to the background when the camera shakes.
As we step through this frame by frame, the clouds move and the object doesn't move with the clouds. The object, frame by frame, is changing position while the clouds are more gently moving in one direction. This is evidence of bad tracking, it's called, and it's a process by which we put fake things into real footage to make it look real.
And the biggest red flag of all, how could a cluster of UFOs appear over downtown Miami and only one guy notice?
Where are the other witnesses? We had one.
The man who says he made the video declined our request for an interview. Turns out you can overlay orbs on video with a simple smartphone app. Our verdict is hoax, one that muddies the water for people really trying to study UFOs. We'll call them out when we see them. In an earlier episode, we brought you this video, a UFO over North Carolina that appeared to subdivide not once, but twice. Our experts couldn't agree what that was, and now we've got another challenge for them, a similar phenomenon in a different place. Warminster, England, about 100 miles west of London. The passenger in a parked car notices something that appears to be a couple of helicopters or drones. But then, look at this. They seem to split into 5 or 6 smaller objects and then perform a series of coordinated maneuvers. And it isn't the only video like this coming out of England. Almost 300 miles away in Sunderland, a beachgoer catches this on camera. Here, 2 bright orbs loop across the sky and seem to divide. It looks kind of like fireworks at first, but then watch. The split orbs proceed to conduct similar coordinated maneuvers just like the Warminster video. They remind journalist and author Alexis Brooks of other first-hand accounts.
In the field of ufology, there is something, in fact, called UFO mitosis. Objects that are seen first as one and then replicating themselves and following a similar trajectory. This could be what we're seeing.
And taking it one step further, Brooks wonders if the UFO's splitting is part of an actual biological process.
I've spoken to quite a few individuals who have been taken on board craft that believe the craft is actually alive. Not just the occupants of the craft, but the craft itself. The assumption is that the craft may in fact be sentient as well.
During World War II, Winston Churchill suppressed reports of a UFO sighting in order to avoid widespread panic. Could these splitting UFOs be similar to what he feared? We turn to our experts for answers. Military analyst Tim McMillan looks at the Sunderland footage and eliminates some possible explanations.
It's not consistent with any fireworks that I'm familiar with, mainly because it's doing barrel rolls, it's leaving a lot of showering sparks.
McMillan also thinks that no secret weapon would be tested or operated over a public beach, out in the open like this.
It's doing a pretty impressive show that would lead me to believe that we're not looking at classified military technology.
He also thinks he could rule out UFOs, if only because of those odd sparks.
I'm unfamiliar with anybody who has seen any UFOs showering sparks and doing barrel rolls.
In recent years, China has used elaborate drone swarms to create synchronized displays. Could this be something similar?
Potentially a drone-type system that is specifically designed to provide a fireworks display that's able to shower sparks and do barrel rolls and travel all throughout the sky like this.
So it's possible. But instead of focusing just on the objects, astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio looks at these people on the beach.
I see what appears to be people looking at this. This person looks like he's looking some other direction. That would be a pretty eye-catching thing. Here's people that are bent over, doing other things, and that this is happening without anyone really paying attention to it. That is sort of a bit of a red flag for me.
And if this video is sort of a red flag for D'Antonio, the Warminster video raises that flag and gives it a good wave.
Now, coming out from behind the hill, look, they're suddenly there. So watch. Boom. They started out here. The transition out of the hill is missing. It was removed from the video, probably because the person who was creating this put in his little dots and took those frames out because he couldn't get a convincing exit from the hill. I think I have to label this one a hoax.
One more thing about the Warminster video. Just about every time the orbs get close to the hill, everything goes blurry. You see this? Like there's something to hide. There's no point in splitting hairs over self-splitting UFOs. we're concluding that both videos are in fact CGI creations. Gotcha.